Today we're going to be highlighting some super affordable alternatives to some very expensive and popular niche fragrances. So what is a niche fragrance? A niche fragrance is a fragrance brand that only produces fragrances. And so because of the fact that they're making all their money from their fragrances and they're not a huge designer brand that's producing sunglasses and clothing and watches and everything else, typically they're going to be charging a premium for their product. It's going to be kind of looked at as a more luxury product, and it comes with a luxury price tag, typically in excess of $200. And a lot of times these days especially, you'll see niche, $350, $400, $500+ Sometimes niche fragrances will get hyped up quite a bit because they might smell really unique and really good. They might be great compliment getters and they just might take off every now and then. But that price tag can be a little bit prohibitive. Doesn't always have to be the case. So I'm going to give you guys some affordable alternatives to some very popular niche fragrances. We're going to start off with an alternative to Baccarat Rouge 540 Extrait. So as if Baccarat Rouge 540 Eau de Parfum wasn't already expensive enough, the Extrait is even more insane, like $700+. And if you don't want to spend that much money, which I get it, 100%, you could go for something like Al Haramain Amber Oud Ruby Edition. So there are many clones of the Eau de Parfum and fewer clones of the Extrait. The Extrait is much less popular for obvious reasons, that price point going from already too expensive to now even more expensive. That being said, I do prefer the Extrait, or at least that DNA, that smell. The reason why is because they're adding almond into the mix. So BR 540, Eau de Parfum, and things that smell similar to it, they're very woody and transparent, kind of light, and they don't really have a lot of punch to it. And I'm not talking performance, I'm just talking about the actual smell. They're kind of wispy and airy. The Extrait and things that smell similar to that, like this, they're introducing the almond to give it more texture, more bite, and actually a little bit more of a masculine smell too. And so that's kind of the main reason why I prefer Baccarat Rouge 540 Extrait. But again, it's just so expensive. You can grab this one for around, I think it's, $50, maybe $60, which for a clone is still pricey, but I mean, it doesn't even come close to what the real deal goes for. So definitely an option for you if you want to get that smell for considerably less. Next up, we're going to be going over a Tom Ford private blend alternative. Now, there are so many private blends, and yes, in this instance here, Tom Ford is technically a designer brand because they're putting out sunglasses, clothing items, and so on. That being said, I still wanted to include this anyway because the private blend line is so expensive and it's not getting any cheaper. In fact, the prices are continuing to go up on these. They're niche priced. So yes, technically designer, but niche pricing. And there are a lot of really popular private blends that get a lot of attention. And essentially when you're looking at a similar price point to niche, it kind of is the same thing at this point. Whether it's still a designer or a niche, it's out of many people's budget. So this is one in particular that I really like a lot. It's actually one of my favorite private blends, but it's just expensive. We're talking about Tom Ford Bitter Peach, but instead you can go for Maison Alhambra Bright Peach instead, which is going to come in at around, I think I've seen it $25, $30 or so. And it's really no surprise what this one is going to smell like. Very fruity off the top from the peach. Also, a little bit of kind of a sweet, boozy undertone too, which makes it unique considering what we're going after, which is a fruity scent. But it's kind of giving it this mixture of a sweetness with this fruity, fresh undertone as well. So this might be considered more of like a summer gourmand, being that it kind of has an edible type of smell to it, but it still does have a brightness and kind of an uplifting, summery feel. I think this would be great for evening wear, just indoor situations where it's not going to be 90 degrees bearing down on you while you're wearing something like this, because then it would probably get a little bit too overpowering. But I think for what it's worth, Bitter Peach by Tom Ford is a great scent. It really is something unique and interesting. It's just expensive, but you can get this one and save a lot of money. So next up, we're going to be going over an alternative to a Kilian Paris scent, which I love the brand. I think as far as gourmands and boozy scents and coffee scents go, Kilian Paris is probably one of the best brands out there as far as getting a realistic smelling product and getting a high quality gourmand as well. They make some of my favorites: Straight to Heaven, Back to Black, Black Phantom, Intoxicated, I mean, Apple Brandy, so many. I really love just about all of them for the most part, but they are pricey. Now, recently they came out with something that's a little bit more affordable, but still expensive, and you've heard of it. And that, of course, is Kilian's Angel Share, which got really popular and really hyped up because it was just a sweet compliment getter style of scent. And again, it does come in at a little bit more of an affordable price, but still on discounters, it's up there. There were some clones that were released pretty quickly after the big hype, surge of that one, and this is one of them. It's one of the better ones. It is Amir Fire Your Desire, and this is, I believe, it's a Paris Corner, but they have a couple different lines that kind of branch off. This is one of them here, but this one gets you really close, that kind of edible, coffee, chestnut, chocolatey type of smell that's going on. And Angel Sharing, a booziness too, of course. That's what you're getting here, just at a fraction of the cost. This is a really good quality alternative. One of the brands that is kind of on top of the game right now is Parfums de Marly. They have a lot of great releases: Leighton, Sedley, Hobdon, other things like Carlisle, and so on. One that you don't hear about as much anymore, but did kind of have its little hype wave there at one point, was Herod. And looking back, it's still one of my favorites from the brand. It's a very rich tobacco-forward scent. Tobacco, smoky, rich, sexy, addicting. It smells great, but again, it's going to be pricey. Discounters, it's kind of few and far between. Really, the only time you can get PDM at a price below retail is when a discounter decides to run a sale or something, right? So a little bit trickier. But you can also get something like Maison Alhambra Hercules, which is going to get you into that PDM Herod DNA for less. A really nice tobacco, incense, tonka bean, vanilla combination. Smells absolutely beautiful. I love the Herod DNA. Again, guys, compared to Leighton and a few of the other more popular ones, it's not talked about as much, but go back and revisit Herod if you have it, or get something like Alhambra Hercules if you don't, and you'll see what I mean. It's an incredible tobacco scent with still a lot of wearability. It's not niche tobacco to the point where it smells like you're smoking a pipe or legitimately smoking a cigar or something, where as far as usability is concerned, wearing it to school or to work or something, that might be a bit too much. It's not the case at all. It's a very respectable, wearable tobacco scent that still has kind of an addicting, sexy undertone. You can't go wrong with something like this. Next up, we have an alternative to Amouage Reflection Man, and it is Killer Oud Revolution by Paris Corner. So Amouage is a very, very well-respected and reasonable niche brand. So as far as it's concerned here, compared to some of the others we're talking about, they're not as expensive because, again, Amouage, they're coming in 100 ml bottles. Some of like the Tom Ford private blends, well, not some, they all come in 50 ml standard. They offer bigger sizes, but 50 is kind of the typical size. And those are still way more expensive than what Amouage is going for. But still, Amouage can be expensive sometimes. And still, if you can get a clone like this for 30 bucks, that's a considerable amount of savings there that can be put towards other things. And so if you want to smell like Reflection Man without spending actual Reflection Man money, you could go for something like this one. It's a really, really good alternative with great quality, great performance as well. Relatively speaking, you know, the original is not a beast mode performer, and neither is this, but this kind of holds its own up against the original. So one of my favorite summer scents that I've had for a long time now is Roche Parfums Elysium. But, you know, Parfum Cologne, it's still $200 on discounters. The regular Parfum, standard Parfum, which came first, retails for $485. It can be on discounters into the 300s or so, both of which are still very expensive. You could get something like FOMO, a Fragheads Asylum, for around, I think it's $35, somewhere around in there. I know it's under 40. And this one gets Elysium down really well. It has the exact same type of vetiver. All of the apple and the blackcurrant and the lemon, bergamot, ambroxan, and just so many other notes that I'm missing as well. It's a pretty extensive note breakdown, but the main ones are the very specific type of vetiver, and then those fruits and the ambergris, ambroxan. That's kind of what makes up Elysium, and that's exactly what you get here. Impressive quality. This does not smell like a $35 scent. It smells much more expensive. So you're getting something that smells like Elysium, but just on its own, you're getting a really high quality scent for basically dirt cheap price. Let's go and kind of focus our attention on Creed for a second. You know, at one point, Creed was at the top of the game as far as niche goes, but over time, new brands have popped up. Brands have just put out a higher volume of scents, and they, you know, at this point, Creed, they don't have the reputation like they used to. Their stuff is still very expensive. In fact, just like everything, their stuff, the pricing has continued to go up over the years, even though their product has kind of stayed the same, or in a lot of cases, just declined in quality. I digress, though. You could go for something like Cristiano Ronaldo Legacy, and this is going to get you very close to a summer just gem, Millesime Imperial, which needs no introduction. It's one of the more popular ones. You know, it's like Aventus is always going to be the most popular. Then there's Millesime Imperial and, you know, Silver Mountain Water and whatever. But, you know, Millesime Imperial kind of branches outside of the FragCom just like Aventus does. And a lot of people wear that one. You know, it smells like a very, very luxurious summer day on the beach or at a fancy resort or something, and just very fruity, sea salty, and just summery. It really smells like vacation. Now this one again is standard rate, maybe $40, $45 or so. Millesime Imperial's up into the multiple hundreds depending on if you're shopping at discounters or retail or whatever, but no matter what way you cut it, you're saving money with this. Let's keep it moving with Afnan Tarathi Brown. This one is going to get you very close to YSL Tuxedo, just at a fraction of the cost. YSL Tuxedo is close to $300. So, and again, guys, YSL, designer brand, but the premise is the same. Again, pricing here. If you can't afford it as a niche, you can't afford it as a designer either if the price is the same. So this is still a great alternative to you. And I will say this too, to me, Tuxedo, it smells a lot like a niche fragrance. Take all the clones out of the picture and just focus on YSL Tuxedo, which came first. Nothing else like it. It's the first of its kind, super unique, patchouli, spicy, ambergris scent. Very, very interesting and exciting. At this point, so many clones, so many. This is not the only one. There's at least 5 off the top of my head that I could think of right now that I have, and even more than that are out there. So yeah, because other people are copying it, it might no longer be original, but at one point, you couldn't really get anything else like it. And so this is just one that I happen to choose for this video, but if you have another Tuxedo clone, then you're probably good to go. Let's focus our attention back on Creed for a second, because let's face it, you know, they do have some really good fragrances under their belt. And Green Irish Tweed is a super classy signature scent that any guy could pull off any time of year for any situation, as long as you have the money for it. Although, technically, you don't need the money for Green Irish Tweed. If you have 20 to 25 bucks in your pocket, you can get a bottle of Armagh Tres Nuits, and it's going to get you pretty much all the way there. In my opinion, this is worth picking up 10 times over compared to the original Davidoff Cool Water, because you see that all the time. Buy Cool Water Eau de Toilette instead. This, to me, is an infinitely better scent. The quality, the performance, the composition, it's so much better. cool water eau de toilette is so synthetic to me, and maybe I just got a bad bottle or something, or maybe I'm the only one, but I cannot stand the original cool water. Maybe it's not what it used to be, but Très Nuit is a really, really good alternative to that very clean, soapy DNA. Last up for this one, we have a niche scent that is not hyped up at all. A lot of you maybe haven't even smelled this, but maybe you've heard of it. I've talked about it a few times. It's Overpriced Mega Mare, which is probably one of the most unique and kind of realistic marine scents that I have ever tried. Okay, it's to the point where it's not a compliment puller, it's not mass pleasing. It's something that you would wear for personal enjoyment only, and that's about it. Maybe you get lucky and your partner, wife, significant other likes it too, maybe because you just wear it so much that, you know, all of a sudden they become accustomed to it or something. But outside of that, this is not something that people are going to, you know, go crazy over left and right. And it's expensive. You can go for a Lattafa Atlas Eau de Parfum. It's going to get you very close to Mega Mare. Same color, liquid inside, that kind of like very diluted green. You can barely even see it on camera, more evident in person, but really beautiful looking. Nice bottle, the cap similar to Mega Mare as well, the color, the finish that is. And of course the scent, very close. It's musky and kind of oak mossy, but then very marine and salty and seaweedy and just, wow, it's really, really something interesting. That's the best way I can put it. Interesting. Not for everybody, not something you're gonna wanna wear all the time, but it is pretty cool, and this one is affordable. Alrighty guys, that's gonna do it for me. Some fantastic affordable alternatives to some much more expensive niche fragrances. I have all of these linked down below to make it easy for you to pick these up. And if you want to be notified of when new fragrance releases hit discounters and when rare and discontinued ones pop up as well, you can jump on my mailing list and texting list down below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.